Most of us know what it's like to sit across from someone we love while they're locked into a story that hurts. They're stuck in a repetitive loop about a failure or a deep despair, and from the inside, that story feels impossible to argue with. When we see this, our own nervous systems tend to tighten in response. We start performing the role of the helper, reaching for tools, offering analysis, or trying to engineer a breakthrough, mostly because the silence in the room has become unbearable for us. This barrage of advice often backfires. Instead of feeling seen, the person in pain now has to manage your expectations. They find themselves performing the role of a recovering patient just to make you feel like your help is working, which adds a new layer of exhaustion to their crisis. This high-pressure environment actually prevents the very thing we're trying to encourage. By aggressively trying to fix the pain, we make the room too crowded for any genuine movement to happen. If we look closely at that urge to intervene, we often find it isn't driven by the other person's needs. It's our own severe discomfort with their suffering, disguised as empathy. We retreat behind a professional or wise persona, working the machinery of authority, because we're afraid of just being a person in a room who doesn't have the answers. The alternative is a process of ruthless subtraction. You let the curtain fall on the performance, stop the machinery, and remove the pressure of having to be a savior. Genuine kindness involves giving up the exhausting search for a solution. It means staying in the room as an undefended person, rather than a manager of someone else's problems. In cognitive science, this state is called high-precision waiting. The person has fused with a self-model that is causing them suffering. The story they're telling themselves is so loud and so heavy that it blocks out the actual conditions of the room. Arguing with that story is a mistake. When you try to talk them out of their despair or provide counter-evidence, you're still focusing on the narrative. Engaging with the logic of a painful story can inadvertently reinforce the knot, making it feel more valid and even more consuming. Subtraction works by shifting attention to the immediate and the mundane. You ask about the squeak of a shoe, the color of the light, or the temperature of the air. These questions provide a grounding line, pulling attention away from the propositional story and back towards the senses. Shifting attention to the concrete reality of the room starves the story of the fuel it needs to survive. Within that gap, the person's self-model can loosen, allowing them to briefly inhabit their body again. There is a specific kind of quiet that happens when a person finally drops a narrative they've been carrying for years. Their voice changes, their breath slows, and the tension in the room suddenly dissipates. The helper's instinct here is to pounce on that shift. We want to congratulate them, analyze what just happened, or ask them to name the profound realization they're having. The more skillful move is to treat the shift as if it's the most ordinary thing in the world. Instead of asking for a summary of their progress, you move to something logistical. Ham or cheese? Do you want the light on or off? By subtracting the demand for a measurable outcome, you protect the person's relief. They don't have to turn their experience into a product or a lesson. They are allowed to just be in the room without explaining themselves. There is one vital exception to the rule of loosening. Sometimes a person's self-model becomes too loose, and they begin to drift into dissociation, flashback, or panic. On this gauge, the needle has swung past the stable center and into the red. You'll see the tells. Their eyes might lose focus or fixate on the middle distance. Their face goes empty, and their answers become mechanical, as if they're no longer entirely present in the room. This is the safety inversion. You stop loosening the environment and start raising the precision. You are no longer trying to create a gap. You are trying to provide an anchor. You give them something concrete to hold, a water bottle or the arm of a chair. You ask them to name 3 things they can see, and you tell them exactly where they are and what time it is. You are providing the structure they currently lack. Skillful work isn't about following a single direction. It's the act of reading a nervous system and knowing when to loosen the story and when to hold the floor. Once you subtract the need to fix, the need to analyze, and the need for outcomes, you are left with your own presence. This is the primary instrument of the work. Being undefended means sitting back. It means keeping your weight in the chair, slowing your speech, and letting a silence sit without rushing to fill it. You aren't manufacturing warmth or professional empathy. You are just being the person in the chair. Human nervous systems naturally co-regulate. If you can maintain a stable, regulated, and quiet baseline, the other person's system will eventually read that field and begin to match it. Relinquishing the role of the savior transforms the environment. You become a stable presence, a reliable container where another person can finally find their own way back to the present. Grandiose attempts to save people usually end in exhaustion and burnout for everyone involved, but sharing a room with someone is sustainable. It doesn't draw down your reserves in the same way. You don't need profound wisdom to help someone settle. You just need to offer the unarguable reality of a chair, a window, and the fact of continuing together. Simple kindness outlasts everything because it asks for nothing. It provides the one rare space where a person is allowed to just exist, exactly as they are, until they're ready to move again.